Now turn to the co-sponsor of this legislation, the gentlelady from New York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, not only for holding this hearing, but for your tireless work on this really important bill. We unfortunately share the same situation of representing many people who were hurt by these Ponzi schemes, and I know how hard that you've focused on trying to help them. And I welcome all of our panelists, particularly our two victims, that will help put a human face on what we are arguing about today and debating today. Unfortunately, when Bernie Madoff and Alan Stanford's massive Ponzi schemes came crashing down, they exposed several key flaws in the Securities Investment Protection Corporation and how it operates. Our bill attempts to fix these flaws and would reaffirm the primary purpose of the Securities Investor Protection Act, which is to protect customers of broker-dealers and to maintain investor confidence in our securities markets. SIPC is supposed to maintain this confidence by winding down failed broker-dealers in a fair and equitable manner, which above all means protecting innocent customers' assets. Unfortunately, in the Madoff case, SIPC and the trustees has pursued a highly aggressive strategy that, in my opinion, has unfairly punished some of my constituents who are innocent customers and has almost certainly reduced investor confidence in our securities markets. In some cases, former Madoff customers who had withdrawn their money many, many years before the firm's failure was learned for the first time that their money was being clawed back only when the trustees filed a lawsuit against them. This is hardly the way to promote confidence in the securities market, and our bill would put a stop to these tactics. Now, SIPC has argued that these clawbacks are allowed under the federal bankruptcy code, but it's important to remember that Congress enacted the Securities Investor Protection Act in 1970s because the bankruptcy code was not very useful for winding down broker-dealers. Congress recognized that broker-dealers, like commercial banks, are fundamentally different from regular non-financial companies, and just as commercial banks are liquidated by the FDIC, broker-dealers need to be liquidated by SIPC. It's important to recognize that broker-dealers are different because they are heavily regulated by the SEC, which examines their books and records to make sure that customer money is actually there, makes routine on-site inspections, and requires annual audits of the broker-dealer. It is this seal of approval from the government that customers rely on and which allows investors to place their confidence in the country's securities markets. They can have confidence in our securities markets because they have confidence in the SEC, also because they have confidence that if their broker-dealer fails, they will be protected by SIPC and treated fairly. The account statements are also good enough for the government to rely on. After all, these customers pay taxes to the IRS on the profits that they see on their account statements. Now SIPC says that they can claim a tax deduction on this IRS payment in the case of a clawback, but most of these people are retired and don't have the income to have a tax deduction. In addition, customers make all of their financial decisions based off the financial statements that they receive from their brokers, which tells them how much money is in their account. For SIPC and the trustee to come in years later, in some case 10, 20, 30 years later, and say, sorry, you actually can't rely on these financial statements that the government has essentially been signing off on for years, they're wrong. SIPC should not be able to claw back money that innocent customers had withdrawn years ago. Our bill would prevent these unfair clawbacks of money that innocent customers had long ago withdrawn. It would, however, still allow clawbacks in cases where an investor actually knew about the fraud when they withdrew their money. That's the way it should be. Innocent people should be protected, while customers who knew about the fraud do not receive the benefit of government protection. The time has now come to reform SIPC, and I believe that our bill is a good starting point towards a lively debate on this issue. I thank the chairman and all of our participants, my colleagues, for being here today, and I thank particularly the chairman's really hard, I would say, inspiring leadership on this. He's been very dedicated in working on this issue for a long time. And I yield back the balance of my time.